He dropped out to help his mother, then built something that changed their lives. He dropped out of school when his mother lost everything. They called him a failure, until he built something that changed their lives forever. From street markets to global stages, his dream rose from sacrifice and love. Welcome back to Soulrise Stories. Please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Every click helps us share more powerful stories of hope, sacrifice, and triumph. Together, we're not just telling stories, we're keeping dreams alive. Ethan Williams had grown up believing that hard work could change everything. He was the first in his neighborhood to win a full university scholarship. Or so everyone thought. The truth was, the scholarship only covered half his tuition, and every semester, his mother scraped the other half together by selling vegetables at the local market. His father had died when he was 10, leaving Margaret Williams to raise him alone. She was small in stature, but mighty in heart, the kind of woman who never complained even when her body did. She worked long hours under the sun, smiling as if sweat were a badge of honor. For Ethan, she was more than a mother. She was his compass. At university, Ethan was admired for his intelligence and humility. His friends called him Professor, not just for his brains, but for his calm confidence. Yet behind that confidence was pressure, bills piling up, messages from home asking for help, and a constant fear that everything could collapse. Then, one afternoon, it did. He was in class when his phone buzzed repeatedly. It was his mother. Her message was short. "Ethan, don't panic. The shop burned down. I'm fine." The words hit him like cold water. The shop, their only source of income, was gone. He rushed to the market that evening. Charred wood, blackened crates, the smell of smoke. His mother stood there trembling but trying to smile. "God kept me alive," she said. That's enough. It wasn't enough. The landlord wanted his rent. The suppliers wanted their money. And the university wanted its fees. Ethan tried to study that night, but the letters on the page blurred. When the final notice came, tuition unpaid, enrollment suspended. He knew what he had to do. He packed his bag quietly at dawn. His roommate, Chidi, stared in disbelief. "You're dropping out?" "Ethan, you're one of the best students here." Ethan forced a smile. "My mother needs me more than the university does." The road home was long, both literally and emotionally. When he arrived, Margaret ran to hug him, but behind her smile was guilt. "I failed you, my son," she whispered. He shook his head. "You gave me everything that mattered." Let's start again. The next morning, he joined her in the market. For the first time, he saw her world. Women shouting prices, balancing trays on their heads, chasing customers for payment. They laughed through pain, survived through debt, and prayed through disappointment. That night, as he massaged his mother's swollen hands, he made himself a promise. "If I can't finish school, I'll build something that makes her life easier." He didn't know how, but he meant it. The days turned into weeks. Ethan helped his mother every morning, carrying crates of vegetables through the crowded alleys of the market. He learned how quickly goods spoiled, how often customers owed money, and how women struggled to remember daily sales. He began to notice patterns, numbers, habits, mistakes. His mind, once used to equations and code, started connecting dots. One afternoon, a fellow trader named Mrs. Graceford complained, "I can't find my book again. I wrote down who owes me for yams, now everything's lost." That's when it hit him. What if there was a small phone app, Ethan thought aloud, that could record what you sell every day, and even remind you who owes you? They laughed. "App? Ethan? We don't need apps. We need customers." Then came his old classmate, Ryan Cole, charming, rich, and arrogant. Ryan had always mocked Ethan for being too serious. Now he worked for a tech company and drove a silver car that gleamed like arrogance itself. When Ryan saw Ethan pushing a wheelbarrow of tomatoes, he smirked. Well, well. The genius becomes a grocer. Ethan forced a smile. At least I'm building something real. Ryan laughed. From a market stall? Come on, Ethan. You belong in a classroom, not the streets. That night, those words replayed in Ethan's mind like a curse. He almost gave up, but his mother's voice echoed louder. Pain ends when purpose begins. So he kept building. One day, as he was testing the app, a young woman stopped by his stall. She introduced herself as Grace Porter, a local journalist. I read about your idea on a tech forum, she said. Do you mind if I interview you? Ethan hesitated. I'm not sure anyone would care. Grace smiled. Let's find out. 2 weeks later, her article went viral. The Dropout, Digitizing the Market. Suddenly, everyone cared. MarketEase got over 1,000 downloads in 1 week. Local radio stations invited him to speak. But not everyone was happy. Ryan's company saw the buzz, and they moved fast. A month later, a similar app appeared online, TradeSmart, smoother, flashier, backed by investors. Ryan called it innovation. Ethan called it theft. Downloads for MarketEase plummeted overnight. Investors ignored his emails. Grace tried to help, but the press moved on to newer stories. It felt like the dream had died just as it began. The betrayal shook Ethan's confidence. For weeks, he avoided the market, ashamed of his failure. Margaret tried to encourage him, but she was struggling too. Her debts had returned and her health was worsening. One night, as thunder rolled outside, Ethan sat in darkness staring at his laptop screen. Maybe Ryan was right, he muttered. Maybe people like me aren't meant to win. Margaret came to his room quietly, holding a cup of tea. You know, she said, when your father died, people said I couldn't survive alone. They were wrong. The world doesn't reward strength. It rewards persistence. Don't stop now. Her words reignited the fire. The next morning, Ethan took his phone and went back to the market. He asked the women what they truly needed. They told him, I can't read well. I forget my password. I don't understand English. He listened, really listened, then returned home and rebuilt the app from scratch. He added voice commands, local language options and simple icons, no typing required. When he unveiled MarketEase 2.0, even the most skeptical traders were intrigued. This one speaks my language, one woman exclaimed. Grace returned to cover the story again. Ethan, this is genius, she said. Would you like to pitch it to an innovation hub I work with? He agreed, though he had no suit, no presentation, and no confidence left. At the pitch event, surrounded by polished entrepreneurs and investors, Ethan stood with his old laptop. When it was his turn, the microphone trembled in his hand. He began slowly, voice cracking. My mother sells vegetables. She's not rich, not tech-savvy, but she's the reason I'm standing here. I built MarketEase so people like her, the ones who build our economy but get nothing back, can work smarter, not harder. There was silence, then applause. After the event, a tall man approached him. Mr. Daniels, the head of an investment group. Young man, he said, you've built something simple but powerful. How much funding do you need to take this nationwide? Ethan froze. Sir, I don't even know. Mr. Daniels laughed. Then let's start with a partnership. Within months, MarketEase became a sensation. The app was featured on national news, and Ethan was invited to technology panels and business interviews. Ryan's company, exposed for stealing the original idea, lost its credibility. But Ethan never gloated. When reporters asked how he felt, he simply said, Every loss is just practice for your real victory. Yet, despite his success, he didn't forget why he started. His mother's health was worsening, her debts still unpaid. He worked tirelessly to ensure she would never lift another crate again. The morning of the launch ceremony for MarketEase Global, the city buzzed with excitement. Ethan was now a household name, the dropout turned innovator. the son who turned pain into purpose. As cameras flashed, Ethan adjusted his tie nervously. Margaret, dressed in a simple blue gown, stood by his side, smiling proudly. When asked how it felt to become a millionaire at 26, Ethan replied, "I'm not rich. I'm just free, and that's what I want for others." Later that afternoon, he visited the same bank that had once humiliated his mother for missing payments. The manager, shocked to see him, stammered, "Mr. Williams, welcome. What can we do for you today?" Ethan handed him a check. "I'm here to clear Margaret Williams's entire debt." The man blinked. "All of it?" Ethan nodded. "Every cent, and please, remove her name from your blacklist." When he gave the receipt to his mother, she broke down crying. "Ethan, you've given me peace I never thought I'd have." He smiled. "You gave me everything first." Weeks later, he received the Humanitarian Innovator Award. The hall was filled with dignitaries, journalists, and young dreamers. Ethan took the stage and paused, his gaze sweeping the audience. "When I dropped out of university," he began, "I thought my life was over. But sometimes, God closes one door so you'll stop staring at it and notice the open gate behind you. I built MarketEase for my mother. But along the way I discovered it wasn't just her story. It was the story of millions like her, hard-working, invisible, yet essential." The audience rose in applause. Tears streamed down Margaret's face. Grace, now his media director and close friend, whispered to a colleague, "This isn't just a startup story, it's a love story between a mother and her son." After the event, Ryan appeared backstage, humbled, worn down. "Ethan," he said quietly, "I was wrong. You built something real. I was too arrogant to see it." Ethan smiled faintly. "Everyone wakes up eventually. I wish you success in your next chapter." Ryan nodded, ashamed but grateful. A year later, MarketEase had reached over 1 million users across Africa. Ethan's team trained hundreds of young developers from poor backgrounds. He launched a new initiative, Project Purpose, to help dropouts gain digital skills. His mother now ran a foundation supporting widows in business. Her small grocery stall was long gone. In its place stood a community center named the Margaret Hub. One Sunday evening, as Ethan sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Margaret joined him. "You remember when I told you pain ends when purpose begins?" she said softly. He smiled. "Yes, Mama." She touched his shoulder gently. "Now, it's your turn to tell someone else."